Even the most ardent admirers who believed they had seen it all did not anticipate this. However, everything has been turned upside down by the rumors, the late-night leaks, and the shaky video that has just come to light. Even the most devoted followers of Evelyn and Chantel are finding it difficult to comprehend the allegations that Ty has made since they are so audacious and startling. Rumor has it that Evelyn and Chantel were the only ones that attended the secret night. Ever since Ty gave the initial indication, the cast has been divided and in disbelief about the details. The internet went crazy. Timelines that were full with conjecture. Group discussions in private became crazy. And everyone had the same question. What actually took place that evening? Some are certain that there is more to this narrative than anyone is willing to acknowledge, while others think Ty is merely creating more drama to maintain her attention. At this point, alliances are beginning to fall apart and emotions are running hot. Everyone is asking the same question, which is straightforward but explosive. Will the whole truth ever be revealed? Or is this going to be just another secret lost in the shuffle? What Ty unleashed that morning elevated the already tense environment on set to a whole new level. Her mysterious social media post was the first step. A recognizable shadow enters a poorly lighted room in a little video clip that is just 10 seconds long. Fans were analyzing every picture, zooming in, and seeing connections within minutes after the caption merely stated, "Receipts." Don't lie. Others said they heard Chantel's characteristic laugh in the distance, while others were certain it was Evelyn. However, Ty's assurance that this was just the start was what really ignited the internet. People were whispering in corners on the set. The crew, who had witnessed every conceivable disaster, were terrified, and production helpers rushed by with anxious looks. There was a glimmer of discomfort in Evelyn's eyes as she entered with her typical assurance, head held high and sunglasses. Chantel trailed a few paces behind, attempting to maintain a neutral expression, but her body language was stiff, and everyone could see it. The smallest smirk appeared on Ty's lips as she quickly entered the room, phone in hand. We will thus simply sit here and act as though nothing occurred. The uneasy silence was sliced like a dagger by Ty's voice. The room became silent. Even the cameras, which had been rolling idly, swiveled slightly, as though they sensed that something significant was going to occur. Never one to back down, Evelyn took off her sunglasses and fixed Ty with a glare. "If you have something to say," she remarked in a controlled yet acerbic tone. Without flinching, Ty said, "Say it. Otherwise, keep my name out of your mouth." She tapped the screen while holding out her phone. A video began to play, and despite the low level, it was still possible to make out the images of blurry but identifiable people, two of whom were sitting too close together, whispering and laughing in an unfriendly manner. Everyone in the room gasped, and Chantel's face became pale. "Do you believe that you are more intelligent than anybody else?" Ty spoke in a steady, nearly serene tone. "However, receipts remain. You ought to have been more aware." It was oppressively tense, while some cast members leaned in, unable to resist. The allure of new gossip, others shuffled uneasily, unwilling to become involved. Evelyn took a long breath, her jaw tensing, and Brandy, who had been sitting in the corner looking through her phone, finally looked up and murmured, "This is about to get real ugly." "Ty, whatever game you're playing, it's pathetic," she yelled. "You're bored, so you believe you can come get me? You believe you are powerful if you leak half a clip? Please, girl." However, Ty was not going to back down. With a giggle that chilled the room, she repeated, "Half a clip. This isn't even the nice part, honey. Is dropping the entire video truly what you want? You won't be able to enter another room without everybody whispering if I do, I promise." At last, Chantel was able to speak. Even so, it was hardly more than a murmur. She said, "Ty, stop," with shaking hands. Ty seemed to get even more enraged when someone said, "You don't know what you're doing. You're going to ruin everything." "What is ruined?" she fired back. "The small secret you two believed you could maintain, the falsehoods, the phony smiles, the late-night rendezvous. The only thing I'm doing, girl, is speaking the truth that none of you are willing to acknowledge." The world was responding with equal ferocity outside the cast. Social media was inundated with theories from fans. Some condemned Evelyn and Chantel, of playing innocent for too long while others defended them, saying the footage was manipulated. Even websites that typically steered clear of sticky issues couldn't help but join in on the hashtag craze. The production crew returned to the set and urged everyone to take a break in an attempt to recover control. However, the harm had already been done. Chantel remained behind, clearly terrified, as Evelyn raced out, her heels clicking quickly. On the floor. In the days that followed, the fallout grew worse. Brandy whispered to one of the producers, "This is going to blow up bigger than anyone thinks. Just wait." Ty redoubled her claims, showing up on live streams where she alluded to even more evidence, providing just enough details to keep everyone interested but never enough to put an end to the rumors. Evelyn, meanwhile, dismissed the video as manufactured drivel in a well-crafted response that she placed on her page, but her silence on the more specific charges only served to fan the flames. Chantel. Conversely, they completely vanished from social media. Nothing. No stories, no posts. And no amount of denial could have overshadowed that silence. Supporters started to question whether she had finally succumbed to the strain. Additionally, there were speculations that she was considering quitting the show entirely. However, nobody anticipated how this incident began to damage the cast members' friendships. Suddenly, those who had been inseparable were avoiding each other. Long-standing alliances started to fall apart as private group talks became antagonistic. Having been close to both Evelyn and Chantel, Brandy was in a precarious situation, compelled to take sides while attempting to save her own reputation. At one point, producers, cast members, and even legal officials attended a heated discussion behind closed doors. Chantel avoided making eye contact with anyone, and Ty, who was seated opposite from Evelyn, wore a defiant expression. Concerned that the scandal would cause the show to collapse, the producers pleaded for a settlement. However, it was evident that trust had been irreparably damaged. The most painful aspects of it all, however, were the silent times when no one noticed Evelyn pacing her kitchen at 3 a.m. with her phone in hand, wondering if she should call Ty and plead with her to put an end to this nightmare. Or Chantel sitting by herself in her trailer, scrolling through comment after comment, some full of support, some dripping with venom. One thing became evident as the days stretched into weeks. Ty's revelation of the secret night was no longer merely a scandal or a rumor. It had become a pivotal moment for the ensemble as a whole, not just for Evelyn and Chantel. Reputations were damaged, friendships were broken, and everyone was left wondering what would happen next. The anxiety didn't linger in the air after the next dot. With each hour that went by, it became heavier. It was felt by everyone on the set. That subdued buzz of mayhem that could blow up at any moment. As anticipated, Ty was enjoying the storm, as if it were her own wave of fame. She exuded a smug peace whenever she entered the room, as if she had won something that no one else had yet to comprehend. She wasn't ostentatious or theatrical, but her silence was more hurtful than any slight. With her phone in hand, she would go past Evelyn without even looking, smirking every now and again when she heard the crew muttering behind their hands. Everyone was captivated by the performance. But Evelyn was falling apart, not in public, not in the ferocious manner that supporters were accustomed to, but in the private areas out of sight of cameras. She would vanish in between scenes, spending hours pacing her dressing room. Phone calls were muffled but intense enough for her rage to be felt through the thick walls. Nevertheless, her face was inscrutable as she returned to the outside world. Shoulders back, chin up, and that same piercing gaze that made anyone dare to oppose her. Conversely, Chantel had virtually disappeared. Her lively vitality was vanished, leaving behind a worried, apprehensive silence that unnerved everyone. The majority of her time was spent on her phone, looking through countless comments about her, avoiding group situations, and arriving late to shoots. As they analyzed each frame of the released film, created timelines, and pieced together evidence, fans' hypotheses only served to fuel the flames. Nobody anticipated the second leak until it happened. It wasn't merely rumors or conjecture this time. There was no denying it. It was a grainy video, captured by what appeared to be a hotel security camera, but the faces and the timestamp were clearly visible. Chantel and Evelyn leaving a hotel room together at about 2 a.m. Even though it was late, Evelyn wore big sunglasses, Chantel fidgets with her hoodie. As if they understood they were doing something wrong, they both hurried down the corridor. The video became viral in a matter of minutes. Hashtags went viral. Even the most devoted admirers were unable to ignore the proliferation that dared anyone to challenge her. Chantel, on the other hand, had all but vanished. Her once vibrant energy was gone, replaced by a skittish, nervous quiet that made everyone uncomfortable. She'd avoid group scenes, show up late to shoots, and spend most of her time on her phone, scrolling through endless commentary about her. Fans had gone wild with theories, dissecting every frame of the leaked video, building timelines, and piecing together evidence that only fueled the fire. And then the second leak hit. No one saw it coming. This time, it wasn't just whispers or speculation, it was undeniable. The video was grainy, filmed from what looked like a hotel security camera, but the timestamp and the faces were unmistakable. Evelyn and Chantel stepping out of a hotel room together at nearly 2 in the morning. Evelyn in oversized sunglasses despite the late hour. Chantel nervously adjusting her hoodie. Both of them moving quickly down the hallway like they knew they were doing something they shouldn't. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Hashtags exploded. Threads multiplied, and even the most loyal fans couldn't deny what they were seeing. The internet dubbed it Nightgate, and by the next morning, Tamatur Nightgate and Tamatur Chin were trending across every platform. The reactions were brutal. Celebrities weighed in with cryptic posts, gossip pages, churned out theories, and every talk show host in the city had an opinion. The cast group chat reportedly blew up that night with messages flying in so fast, no one could even keep track. Brandy allegedly sent a scathing voice note calling everyone pathetic, while other cast members accused Ty of orchestrating the league to keep herself in the spotlight backstage. The chaos was uncontainable. Producers called emergency meetings trying to get ahead of the narrative, but nothing they did could slow the wildfire. Cameras were everywhere, capturing every flinch, every side glance, every whispered conversation. Even the crew, usually invisible, found themselves drawn into the drama, unable to look away from the train wreck happening right in front of them. Chel's single quote sack down came next. During a confessional taping, she broke down mid-sentence, her voice cracking as tears spilled over. "It's not what they think," she whispered, shaking her head as though trying to convince herself. "None of it is what it looks like." But the footage never aired. Producers deemed it too raw, though that didn't stop someone from leaking audio of the breakdown days later, sending fans into another frenzy. Evelyn, meanwhile, doubled down. If she was going to be painted as the villain, she was going to own it. At a public event, she showed up in a bold red dress, smiling for the cameras like nothing was wrong. When reporters shouted questions about the video, she simply smirked and said, "Believe what you want. I don't explain myself to strangers." The clip of that moment went viral too, cementing her status as the unapologetic queen of scandal. Ty, of course, seized the moment. She went live on Instagram the night the video dropped, sitting in her car with flawless makeup and that trademark glint in her eyes. "So y'all see what I've been saying?" She began, her voice calm, but dripping with that familiar bite. "I told everybody, but no, I'm the messy one, right? I'm the villain." Well, villains don't need to lie, baby. So the receipts speak for themselves. Over 50,000 people tuned in, flooding the comments with fire emojis and messages of support. The live sent shockwaves through the fandom. Suddenly, Ty wasn't just the loud troublemaker anymore. She was the whistleblower, the truth teller. Her follower count skyrocketed. Brands reached out and her name became a permanent fixture in entertainment blogs, but the cast wasn't buying it. Brandy confronted her during a group dinner scene, slamming her glass on the table so hard it startled everyone. "You're playing with people's lives, Ty," she hissed, eyes blazing. "You think this is a game, but you've crossed a line that you can't uncross." Ty didn't flinch. She leaned back in her chair, a small smirk playing on her lips, and said quietly, "Sweetheart, I didn't make the rules. I just stopped pretending they don't exist." That moment became an instant classic, replayed endlessly online, dissected. In reaction videos and memes, fans were divided. Some praising Ty for her fearlessness, others accusing her of exploiting private pain for clout. But regardless of where they stood, everyone was watching behind the scenes. The show's executives scrambled to figure out their next move. Ratings were through the roof, higher than they've been in years. But the legal team was in overdrive, trying to prevent lawsuits from brewing. The tension wasn't just on screen anymore, was bleeding into real life. And everyone knew there was no putting the genie back in the bottle. What no one realized at the time, though, was that this was only the beginning. Because just when the dust seemed like it might settle, another bombshell was waiting in the wings, ready to blow the story wide open again. And this time, the fallout would be even messier, even more personal and impossible for anyone to control. The morning after the second leak, the entire city seemed to hum with speculation. Radio stations debated the scandal between songs. Podcasts dedicated full episodes to analyzing every frame of the hotel footage, and gossip blogs churned out headline after headline, each one bolder than the last. Even people who had never watched a single episode of the show were suddenly experts chiming in with theories and exclusive tips about what really went down that night. But inside the mansion where filming was taking place, the atmosphere was far from the glossy chaos fans were seeing online. Evelyn showed up hours late to the day shoot, sweeping in wearing oversized sunglasses and a floor-length trench coat that screamed drama. She didn't greet anyone, didn't even glance in their direction as she made her way to her spot. The silence she carried with her was deafening, a warning to anyone thinking about crossing her that day. Chell, on the other hand, looked like a shadow of herself. The vibrant, confident woman viewers adored was gone, replaced by someone timid and withdrawn. She avoided eye contact, kept her head down, and barely spoke unless she absolutely had to. When producers tried to coax her into opening up for her confessional, she just stared at the camera for a long moment before whispering, "I don't know what to say anymore." And walking out of the room, Tai, of course, was thriving. Every time she entered a space, conversations would stop and all eyes would turn to her. She knew it, and she basked in it. One moment, she'd be chatting casually with crew members, laughing like nothing was wrong, and the next, she'd be tossing subtle barbs that left people wondering if she knew more than she let on. Some people, she said at one point during lunch, loud enough for everyone to hear, should really stop pretending they're saints. Halos don't shine forever. You know, the tension finally boiled over during what was supposed to be a calm group dinner scene. The producers had envisioned it as a chance for everyone to air their feelings in a controlled, almost therapeutic environment. What they got instead was chaos. Brandy started it, slamming her fork down and glaring across the table. "We are grown women," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice through the chatter. "This whispering, this backstabbing, it has to stop. People's lives are being ruined. And for what? Views? Hashtags?" Evelyn shot her a look so cold it could have frozen fire. "Don't you dare lecture me about ruined lives, Brandy," she said, her voice low but dangerous. "Don't know the half of it." Before anyone could intervene, Tai leaned forward, her eyes locked on Evelyn's. "Oh, please," she said, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "The only thing ruined here is your reputation. And newsflash, baby, you did that all by yourself." The table erupted. Chantel buried her face in her hands, muttering something one could quite hear, while Brandy stood up, pacing back and forth, her hands trembling with fury. The producers tried to step in, but it was too late. The cameras were rolling. Okay, and every second of the implosion was pure gold for the show. Outside of filming, the pressure was mounting in ways none of them had anticipated. Sponsors were threatening to pull their support, claiming the scandal had crossed a line. Journalists camped outside their homes, hungry for any new development. Even family members were dragged into the mess. Their social media pages flooded with questions, accusations, and in some cases, outright harassment. And then came the third leak. This time, it wasn't a video or a grainy picture. It was a series of text messages allegedly between Chantel and Evelyn, full of inside jokes, late-night confessions, and one chilling line that sent the internet into meltdown. Last night changed everything. Whether the messages were real or fabricated didn't matter. The damage was instant. Fans dissected every word, creating timelines, speculating about hidden meanings and debating whether the relationship was deeper than anyone had guessed. Chantel single quotes. S' reaction to the text was immediate and explosive. She stormed into the mansion, phone in hand, her face pale but her eyes blazing. "Who keeps doing this?" she demanded, her voice shaking with rage. "Who keeps feeding this garbage to the blogs? Akoski?" No one answered, but all eyes slid toward Ty, who simply raised an eyebrow and sipped her drink. "Don't look at me," Ty said calmly, her voice smooth as silk. "If your skeletons keep falling out of the closet, maybe stop leaving the door wide open." That single line was enough to push Chantal over the edge. She lunged forward, shouting, "You're ruining my life!" before security stepped in, pulling her away as the rest of the cast sat frozen in shock. The footage was never meant to air. But of course, someone leaked it, and within hours, clips of Chantel's meltdown were everywhere. The world was eating it up. But behind the scenes, the cracks were turning into chasms. Friendships that had survived years of fights and reconciliations were splintering beyond repair. Phone calls went unanswered, text messages ignored, and the one STKnit group now felt more like a battlefield. Every interaction laced with suspicion and resentment. Through it all, Ty kept playing her role to perfection. Part villain, part truth-teller, and completely unstoppable. She did another live, this one from her living room, glass of wine in hand. "They can call me messy all they want," she said, her tone sharp but almost amused. "But messy people don't lie. Messy people don't pretend to be something they're not. And that's the difference. Between me and them, I own my chaos. They run from theirs, run from theirs." That line alone was enough to reignite the firestorm. Fans flooded her comments with praise, calling her the only real one left, while others accused her of exploiting pain for clout. But whether people loved her or hated her, one thing was clear: no one could look away. What none of them realized, though, was that the next twist was already in motion. Something so shocking, so deeply personal that it would change the course of the season and their lives forever. The atmosphere in the mansion had shifted from tense to unbearable. After the third leak, the producers called an emergency meeting, trying desperately to regain control of a narrative that had completely spiraled beyond their grasp. They begged the cast to keep it professional, but those words meant nothing. Now the lines between personal and public had been erased, and every single moment felt like it could explode into another headline. Chantel spent most of her days locked away in her room, lines drawn, phone on silent. The bubbly, confident energy she was known for had completely drained from her. Every time her name trended, it wasn't for a brand deal or a new appearance. It was because someone had twisted her pain into entertainment. She avoided looking at her reflection in the mirror because all she could see was the girl everyone was calling a scandal, Evelyn. On the other hand, refused to disappear. If anything, she doubled down. She started showing up to events in sleek, unapologetic outfits, her makeup flawless, her smile sharp. In one particularly bold move, she attended a high-profile charity gala alone, walking the red carpet like nothing in her world was on fire. When reporters shouted questions, she simply smirked and said, "Believe what you want, I know my truth," before disappearing inside. But what really sent shockwaves through the cast was what happened behind the scenes that night. Ty never one to let a moment pass without stirring the pot, posted a cryptic video to her story just hours after the gala. It was only 10 seconds. Long, just her manicured hand swirling a glass of champagne. But the caption, "If you knew what I know, you wouldn't be able to sleep." The comment sections erupted. What did she know? Was there more to the story? Fans started dissecting every frame of her video. From the reflection in the glass to the sound of music faintly playing in the background, desperate for clues. Within hours, hashtags speculating about a fourth leak were trending. Inside the house, the tension finally reached a boiling point. During a group shoot meant to heal the fractured friendships. Ty walked in late, sunglasses purged. On her head, a smirk playing at her lips. Everyone went silent as she slid into her seat, her energy commanding the room. Brandy was the first to break the silence. "Don't think this is a joke, don't you?" she snapped, her voice trembling with restrained anger. "People are hurting. Ty, Chantel is in pieces and you're out here treating this like it's some game." Ty didn't flinch a game. She repeated slowly, her eyes locking on Bry's. "No, sweetheart, this is the truth. And if the truth hurts, maybe it's because you've been living in a lie for too long." That was all it took. Voices rose, accusations flew, and the scene dissolved into chaos. Chantel, who had been quiet for most of the day, suddenly erupted, slamming her hands on the table. "Why are you doing this to me?" she screamed, her voice raw and broken. "What did I ever do to you?" For a moment, even Ty was silent. The room hung in heavy, suffocating quiet, the cameras capturing every flicker of emotion. Finally, Ty leaned forward, her voice calm but cutting. "You think this is about you?" she said softly. "Baby, this is bigger than you. Bigger than me. This is about the truth finally coming out no matter how ugly it is." That single line was enough to shatter whatever fragile balance remained. Chantel stormed out, slamming the door behind her while Evelyn sat frozen, her expression unreadable. The crew kept filming. Of course, they always did, but even they exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that the situation was spinning far beyond their control. By the next morning, the world had a new bombshell to devour. Someone no one knew who leaked security footage from the mansion, showing a late-night confrontation between Evelyn and Chantel in the kitchen. The video, grainy but clear enough, captured the two of them in a heated argument that ended with Chantel in tears, her voice breaking as she said, "You promised me this wouldn't happen." The internet went feral. Fan pages slowed down the footage trying to read lips, while others claimed to hear whispered confessions buried under the shouting. Theories multiplied. Some believed Evelyn had betrayed Chantel in ways that hadn't come to light, while others were convinced Chantel had orchestrated the drama to gain sympathy. Inside the mansion, chaos turned to paranoia. No one trusted anyone anymore. Conversations stopped when certain people walked into the room. Phones were kept locked and face down, and even the production crew wasn't immune to suspicion. And through it all, Ty continued to fan the flames. In her next live, she didn't name names, but her words were sharp enough to cut through any doubt. "Lies have a way of rotting everything they touch," she said, swirling her wine as if the world wasn't crumbling around her. "And trust me, the smell, it's everywhere right now." Chantel, meanwhile, had reached her breaking point. She begged the producers to let her leave the show, to walk away from the madness, and rebuild her life in peace. But contracts are binding and cameras don't care about broken hearts. They convinced her to stay, promising her protection and a chance to tell her side of the story. But she knew better. In their eyes, her pain was ratings. Then came the moment. No one could have predicted. During a private cast meeting, one meant to be off camera, Ty dropped what would become the most explosive revelation of the season. With everyone gathered in the living room, she looked directly at Evelyn and said, her voice calm but deadly serious, "Why don't you tell them about the night you begged Chantel not to walk away? About how you said she was the only one who really understood you?" The room went silent. Evelyn's face drained of color, her hands tightening into fists at her sides. Chantel stared at the floor, her cheeks flushed with shame and anger. Brandy whispered, "Oh my God," under her breath while the producers scrambled to decide whether to roll cameras or respect the supposed privacy of the meeting. But Ty didn't stop there. "You want to act like you're the victim?" she continued, her tone razor sharp. "But you've been playing both sides this whole time. You can't keep pretending." "Evelyn, not anymore." The aftermath was immediate and catastrophic. Stormed out, slamming the door so hard it rattled the walls while Chantel sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. The rest of the cast sat in stunned silence, unsure of what to do or say. Outside, fans had no idea what had just happened, but they were about to find out. Within hours, details of the confrontation leaked, and the internet exploded once again. Hashtags accusing Evelyn of betrayal trended worldwide, while others defended her, insisting Ty was spinning the story for attention. Every platform was flooded with think pieces, reaction videos, and endless debates about what was real and what was just good television. But for the women living in the center of the storm, this was no longer entertainment. This was survival. And the storm wasn't close to over. And there you have it. It's the drama that has everyone talking, and a storm that shows no signs of calming down anytime soon. Ty's shocking accusations, Chantel's tears, and Evelyn's silence have left fans more divided than ever, and the questions just keep piling up. Did Ty finally expose the real truth? Or is there more to this story that we haven't heard yet? Are we looking at a complete fracture in the cast? Or could there still be a chance for some kind of redemption and healing before the season wraps? Thing is, for sure, every moment from here on out is going to be explosive, and you won't want to miss a second of it. But now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Ty went too far, or was this the reality check the group needed? Is Evelyn hiding something, or is she the real victim of a twisted narrative? Drop your thoughts in the comments because your opinions are what fuel these conversations. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when the next bombshell drops. Share this with your friends because this drama isn't just television anymore. It's history in the making, and you're right in the middle of it.